So we had some new mercenaries, which means the meta is kind of up in the air, and I bet you're wondering what are the best comps you could be using right now. So here is a bunch of really good ones. It may not be the best ones, but it's ones that will do really well on the ladder. I hope this is helpful, and if it is, you should subscribe, because if you don't, I don't know what you're doing. And as always, look fantastic.
I'm a doctor.
Starting off is one of the best builds for Valeera and one of the front runners to take over the meta. It is Grom, Valeera, Thrall, and then on your bench you have Malfurion, Cookie, and Brucon. Grom is using the halting sash because you want to make sure your staggering slam is doing as much damage as possible to combo with Valeera. Valeera is using the unnatural smoke because you're guaranteed to use Sinister Strike turn 1, which means you want to get that combo and then get stealth and then make all your characters super fast. Thrall is using the Doomhammer equipment because you get sped up because of Valeera, which means against a fighter, you basically kill them turn 1. Malfurion is using the Light Root Staff as we want to get extra healing with our nature abilities, which is basically our bench. Cookie is using the appetizers because, you know, Cookies likes appetizers. It's nice. And Brucon is using the lightning rod as their equipment because we want to take Brucon off the bench and usually one-shot a protector if we can. This comp is very good. I'm very worried that this is going to be the most popular comp in the game because those 50-50s with Valeera are going to be awful. Let's go to the next one. Here is a really good comp that you should try out, as Eudora does pretty well against Valeera right now. Eudora, Jaina, and Varden. And then on your bench, you have Blinkfox, Diablo, and Karen. Eudora is using the primed arrayments as you want to have a cannon starting off the game for extra damage. Jaina is using the ice block as we want to make sure Jaina lives as long as possible while she gets the ramp the frost spells. Varden is using the chilling amulet as we want to make sure Varden is also an awkward target to go for and slows down the enemies as long as they possibly can, and you get a freeze eventually. Blinkfox is using the mana runes equipment as when Blinkfox comes out, we want to refresh our character's abilities, so it works really well with Karen and Diablo. Diablo is using the black soulstone. Karen is using the reincarnation. This comp is very good. Would highly recommend you try it out. Let's go to the next one. This comp is arguably the best comp I've seen so far against Valeera, which is Malfurion, Anduin, and King Mukla. And then on the bench, we have Samaro, Cookie, and Sylvanas. Malfurion is using the Light Root Staff as we want healing, but it's also really good with Anduin's equipment. Anduin is using the Ring of Purity, which is every single time a character is healed on your side, you get +5 life, which turns out there's a lot of healing with this comp. King Mukla is using the Mukla's Big Brother as it's an extra taunt to defend our Anduin, but it's also another character to get healed, which means Anduin gets bigger, and it's another character to die for Sylvanas, so it's just a win-win. Samaro is using the Sash of Illusion to have more things die for our Sylvanas and also just have a pretty fast ability that does damage off the bench. Cookie, like usual, is using the appetizers. And Sylvanas is using the Death Volley as we want to make sure we reclaim souls turn 1 with Sylvanas into a very annoying Death Volley so they don't actually kill Sylvanas and get away with it. This comp was very strong. I played it this morning. It did really well against Valeera. It should work for you. Let's go to the next comp. This comp is a little bit more on the spicy side, but actually has a place in the meta as Mr. Smite can attack stealth. The comp is Edwin, Eudora, Grom, and then on the bench you have Cookie, Cornelius, and Mr. Smite. Edwin is using the Black Flag equipment as we want to make sure Eudora is as fast as possible, as well as Mr. Smite if Edwin is still alive when Mr. Smite comes off the bench. Eudora is using the primed arrayments again to summon a cannon turn 1, which helps with potential damage with her first ability. Grom is using the halting sash equipment to go with his staggering slam as it lets Edwin attack twice turn 2 on whatever target you pick. Cookie is using the appetizers equipment to make sure our pirates are as healthy as possible, but to also make sure the Cornelius Mr. Smite combo goes as long as possible. Cornelius is using the Shield of Dawn to be as tanky as possible and absorb as much damage as possible. And Mr. Smite is using the Sharpened Scabbard, which for some reason is bugged right now. So if Edwin does attack or Eudora attacks, you do get extra attack on the bench. This will be changed. It's already confirmed. You just do that for extra attack, and then you overboard with Cornelius's Blessing of Sacrifice and do a huge wombo combo, and you can kill Valeera in stealth. Pretty cool comp. I don't know if it's fantastic. It's not the best comp on this list, but it's definitely something you should try out. Classic Shadow is still around, but if you have not seen it, it is Samaro, Vol'jin, Natalie, and then Cookie, Diablo, Karen on the bench. Samara for this one is actually using the Burning Blade equipment as you want to make sure you're killing a caster turn 1. Vol'jin is using the Ring of Haste as you want to make sure your shadow abilities are as fast as possible. That's what makes Vol'jin so good. Natalie can either use the Eye of the Shadow or the Splinter of whatever this is called. Don't tell me in the comments what it's called or how to pronounce it. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. But whatever one you want, they're both fine. This is good if you want to single target something. This is good if you want to AoE everything down turn 1. Cookie, appetizers like always. Diablo, Black Soulstone like always. Karen, reincarnation like always. Don't you guys love these comps with Karen and Diablo? Tell me in the comments how much you love them. This comp's great, still fantastic. If you want to climb, use it, you'll do great. Orcs are actually surprisingly not bad. Kind of like the Pyro comp, a little bit more on the memey side, but definitely could hold its own. You're using Sourfang, Thrall, Rakara, and then Cookie, Grom, and Gul'dan on your bench. Sourfang is using these Serenite Stompers as you want to get as much stats as possible for your Orcs. Thrall is using the Doomhammer as you want to make sure you're dealing as much damage as possible to a specific mercenary turn 1. Rakara is using the Ancestral Armor because extra life is just better on trying to get a Helm of Inspiration. Don't use this equipment, it's bait. Cookie, like always, appetizers. Grom is still using the Halting Sash as when Grom comes off the bench, sometimes it's just really good to staggering slam something. And then Gul'dan is using the Amulet of Souls as you want to make sure your Siphon Soul is doing as much damage as possible. Pretty fun comp. It's not the best comp on this list, but it will definitely do its job. Let's go to the next one. Beasts are actually pretty good and not enough people give them the credit they deserve. It is with Rexxar, King Crush, King Mukla, and then on your bench you have Temzin, Vol'jin, and Sylvanas. Rexxar is using the Mama Bear Claws as you want to make sure every beast we summon gets +4/+4 for more breakpoints and just better life. King Crush is using the Flaming Claws as we want to make sure King Crush is dealing as much damage as possible when he gets to attack with his big dino head. King Mukla is using the Mukla's big brother as it's a taunt, an extra thing that gets buffed by Rexxar, and something else to die for our Sylvanas. Temzin is using the Last Rites equipment as it is another thing to die for Sylvanas, but it's also a 25/25 with taunt, which is pretty good. Vol'jin is using the Ring of Haste. You know why, let's be real here. Sylvanas is using the Death Volley once again as we want to try to make Sylvanas a threat in the late game. Beasts are pretty good, pretty underrated. I have fun with them. You should too. You should try them out. Holy still exists in this meta. You should try it out. And the build is with Anduin, Cornelius, and Velen. And then on the bench, you have Cookie, Illidan, and Tyrion. Anduin is using the Ring of Purity once again because there is a lot of life to be gained and we like more life and more health on our Anduin. Cornelius again is using the Shield of Dawn. Tanky equals good, and that's what we want for Cornelius. Velen is using the Tome of Inspiration just to get more healing off our characters. Now, you could be a little picante and go with the Potion of Light. They're both okay. You could pick. It's your decision. Cookie, this is no decision. You're using appetizers, okay? Like it. All right. Illidan is using the Razor Fist as we want to make sure Illidan starts ramping as fast as possible. Now, Tyrion, there's two different ways you can go here. One is the Ashbringer, but you have to make sure you bring him out first so the other characters can get the buff potentially. Or you can go with the safer route, which is the King's Helm to make sure our Blessing of Kings just buffs as much as possible. Which either is fine, it's your decision. This comp is definitely good. Would highly recommend you give it a try. I have fun, you should have fun too. Let's go to one more. Currently, this is my favorite comp, and if you made it this far, you deserve a gift. Also, shout out to Emitex. You know who you are, dude. Excellent comp. I love this comp so much. But the idea is use Jaina, the Lich King, King Mukla on the start. Then on the bench, you have Varden, Cookie, and Blink Fox. Jaina, once again, ice block. We gotta make sure Jaina is alive as she is ramping. That's always great. Lich King is using the Frostmourne as we want to make sure our Frostbite slows as many mercenaries as possible. King Mukla, once again, using the Mukla's big brother as a defensive measure for our precious Jaina. Varden is using the Band of Frost as we want to try to ramp up as much as possible. And the whole point of this comp is to try to set up breakpoints for their death blow. It's pretty fun. We have Cookie, obviously appetizers. We just want more life. And then Blink Fox again is using the mana runes as we want to get one good death blow and then mana runes and do it again with Varden. It's really fun. I can't recommend this comp enough. I did so well with it, and there's a video on my YouTube channel that you should check out. The last comp is the friends we made along the way. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you subscribe. I'll check you in the next one.